Sweetheart, this isn't a toy store. Maybe come back when you understand what a bank actually is. The words sliced through the polished lobby of Sterling Trust Bank like a blade, echoing off the marble floors and freezing every conversation mid-sentence. All eyes turned toward the counter where a small black girl, no older than 8, stood clutching a stuffed teddy bear in one hand and a bank card in the other. Her name was Sky Hayes. She had walked in just moments earlier, her father's words still ringing in her ears. Sky, Jordan Hayes had told her at the curb, kneeling to meet her gaze, this card is yours. Go inside, check your balance, and remember, you are my daughter. Never let anyone make you feel small. Now she stood on her tiptoes at the counter, sliding the card across the cold marble surface. Her voice was soft but steady. I need to check my balance, please. The teller, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue, picked up the card between 2 fingers like it was contaminated. Balance? Honey, are we playing pretend today? Welcome back, family. To every single subscriber watching this right now, thank you. Your support means everything, and because of you, stories like Sky's get to be told. If you are new here, subscribe to our channel and let me know where you are watching from in the comments section. Before we dive in, let me say a quick prayer for our subscribers. May everything you're believing God for come to pass. May doors open where walls once stood. May favor, peace, and blessings follow you everywhere you go. Amen. Now, let's get into this story. The lobby of Sterling Trust Bank gleamed like a palace of cold marble and polished brass. Morning light streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the queue of well-dressed customers clutching leather briefcases and designer handbags. The air smelled of expensive cologne and fresh coffee from the boutique cafe in the corner. Sky Hayes stood at the end of the line, her worn sneakers squeaking slightly on the marble floor. She was 8 years old, small for her age, with cornrowed braids that her father had painstakingly done that morning. Her fingers gripped the bank card he'd given her, sleek, black, heavy in her small hand. In her other arm, she clutched her teddy bear, the one with the missing button eye and the torn ear she'd stitched back herself. This belongs to you now, her father had told her just minutes ago at the curb, kneeling so their eyes were level. His voice had been firm, carrying a weight she didn't fully understand. Go inside, show them, and remember, you are my daughter. Never bow to anyone who doubts that. Now, standing in line, those words felt like armor around her chest. The woman ahead of her, mid-40s, pearls, perfectly styled blonde hair, glanced back. Her eyes traveled from Sky's faded jeans to the teddy bear, then to her face. The woman's lips pressed into a thin line before she turned away, stepping closer to the person in front of her as if putting distance between them. Sky's stomach tightened, but she held her ground. The line moved forward. One person. Then another. Finally, Sky reached the counter. The teller, a middle-aged woman named Sharon, according to her name tag, looked up from her computer. Her eyes landed on Sky, and her professional smile faltered for just a moment before returning, tighter this time. Can I help you, sweetheart? The word sweetheart came out patronizing, like she was talking to a lost toddler. Sky stood on her tiptoes, sliding the card across the marble counter. Her voice was soft but clear. I need to check my balance, please. Sharon picked up the card between 2 fingers, holding it as if it might be contaminated. She glanced at it, then back at Sky, one eyebrow raised. Your balance. She let out a small laugh, looking to the teller beside her, who smirked in response. Honey, is this your mommy's card? Did she send you to get something? No, ma'am, Sky said, her grip tightening on her teddy bear. It's mine. My daddy gave it to me. Sharon's smirk widened. She leaned over the counter slightly, her voice loud enough that people nearby began turning their heads. Sweetheart, this isn't a toy store. Banks are for grown-ups. Maybe you should come back when you understand what a bank actually does. Laughter rippled through the line behind Sky. A man in a business suit chuckled. Maybe she's saving up her allowance. Another voice, older, dripping with condescension, kids these days. They think everything's a game. Sky's hands began to tremble. Her throat felt tight, like someone was squeezing it. She looked down at her teddy bear, focusing on the worn stitching, trying to steady herself. Please, she whispered, looking back up at Sharon. My daddy told me to check it. Sharon sighed dramatically, rolling her eyes toward the ceiling as if asking for patience from above. Fine. Let's see what we're working with here. She swiped the card through the machine with exaggerated slowness, shaking her head the entire time. Behind Sky, the whispers grew louder. Probably empty. Poor thing's confused. Where are her parents? The machine beeped. A slip of paper began printing. Sharon reached for it, still wearing that condescending smile. But the moment her eyes landed on the numbers, everything changed. Sharon's smile died on her lips. The color drained from her face like someone had pulled a plug. Her hand, still holding the slip of paper, began to shake, subtly at first, then violently. Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. No words came out. The other teller, a younger man named Marcus, leaned over. What's wrong? Is the card stolen? Sharon didn't respond. She just stared at the numbers, her eyes wide, unblinking, as if she were staring at something impossible. Something that shouldn't exist. Marcus squinted at the slip. His jaw went slack. That can't be right, he whispered. Behind Sky, the crowd had gone quiet, sensing something had shifted. The laughter had evaporated, replaced by a thick, suffocating silence. A woman near the back craned her neck. What's happening up there? Sharon finally found her voice, though it came out strangled. There must be some mistake. The system must have glitched. She swiped the card again, her fingers fumbling. The machine beeped. Another slip printed. Same numbers. Sharon's breathing quickened. Sweat beaded on her forehead. Sky stood perfectly still, her teddy bear pressed against her chest. Is everything okay? She asked quietly. Sharon's head snapped up, her expression a mixture of shock and something else, fear, maybe, or embarrassment that was quickly curdling into defensiveness. But before she could respond, a voice cut through the lobby like a knife. Oh, Sky. Every head in the bank turned. Standing near the entrance, shopping bags in one hand and a coffee in the other, was Mrs. Harper. Sky's third-grade teacher. The woman who assigned her homework every Monday. The woman who praised her essays in front of the class. The woman Sky had trusted completely. Mrs. Harper walked closer, her heels clicking sharply against the marble. A smile played on her lips, but it wasn't warm. It was the smile adults wore when they thought children were being silly. Sky, honey, Mrs. Harper said loudly, projecting her voice so everyone could hear. What on earth are you doing here? Sky's throat tightened. Mrs. Harper, I'm just playing banker again. Mrs. Harper interrupted, shaking her head with mock affection. She turned to the crowd, addressing them like she was still in a classroom. This one has such an imagination. Last week she told the whole class her father owned a skyscraper downtown. She laughed, light and airy, and the lobby erupted. The laughter was louder this time. Harsher. A skyscraper, someone repeated, cackling. Kids and their stories. Sky's vision blurred with tears. That's not, I didn't say it like that. Oh, Sky, Mrs. Harper continued, her voice dripping with condescension. You can't just walk into places and make things up. These people are busy. They have real work to do. The crowd murmured in agreement. Heads nodded. A woman near the back whispered to her companion, no wonder she's confused. Poor parenting, probably. Sky's small body trembled. Her fingers dug into the teddy bear's worn fur, holding it like it was the only thing keeping her from collapsing. "Mrs. Harper," she tried again, her voice cracking. "I'm not making it up. My daddy gave me this card. It's real." Mrs. Harper crouched down, not out of kindness, but for show. She was performing now, putting on a display for the audience. "Honey," she said, her tone syrupy sweet but laced with iron. "I know it's fun to imagine big things. But lying isn't okay. You need to learn the difference between fantasy and reality." Sharon, still pale, still clutching the slip of paper, opened her mouth as if to speak. But then she closed it. And slid the paper into her drawer. Hiding it. Hiding the truth. Skye watched it disappear, her last piece of proof vanishing behind wood and metal. A man in the line spoke up, his voice dripping with judgment. "Kids these days have no discipline." A woman added, "Parents let them get away with everything." Mrs. Harper stood, brushing imaginary dust off her skirt. "Come on, Skye. Let's get you outside before you embarrass yourself further." "I'm not lying." Skye's voice broke, louder now, desperate. But Mrs. Harper had already turned her back. The crowd began dispersing, shaking their heads, muttering about attention-seeking children and bad parenting. Skye stood frozen in the middle of the lobby, her teddy bear clutched against her chest, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. The truth, her truth, was locked in that drawer. And no one cared. If you've ever been in a situation where the people who were supposed to protect you turned their backs instead, drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. Hit that subscribe button because Skye's story is far from over, and you won't want to miss what happens when her father finds out what they did to his little girl. Skye didn't sleep that night. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the bank over and over. The laughter. Mrs. Harper's voice. The way Sharon had hidden that slip of paper like it was a dirty secret. By the time morning came, her eyes were red and swollen. "Maybe they'll forget," she whispered to her teddy bear as her father drove her to school. "Maybe nobody will remember." But she knew better. The moment she stepped through the school gates, she heard it. "Check my balance. Check my balance." The chant started with 3 kids near the basketball court. Then 5. Then 10. By the time Skye reached the playground, a circle had formed around her, 20 children, maybe more, clapping their hands in rhythm, their voices rising in cruel harmony. "Check my balance. Check my balance." Skye stopped walking, her backpack suddenly feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Her teddy bear was tucked inside, but she wished she'd kept it out, held it against her chest. A boy named Marcus pushed his way to the front of the circle, grinning wide. He was popular, athletic, the kind of kid everyone wanted to be friends with. "Yo, my mom told me what happened," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "She said you went to the bank and embarrassed yourself. Said you were pretending to be rich." "I wasn't pretending," Skye said quietly, her voice barely audible over the chanting. "What?" Marcus cupped his hand to his ear, mocking. "Can't hear you over all that fake money you got." The circle erupted in laughter. A girl named Emma stepped forward, her arms crossed. "My dad said you probably stole that card. He said kids like you always make up stories for attention." "I didn't steal anything." Skye's voice cracked, desperation bleeding through. "Sure you didn't," another kid jeered. "Next you'll tell us your dad's a superhero. Or a prince. Or the president." The chanting grew louder, faster, more vicious. "Check my balance. Check my balance." Skye's vision blurred with tears. Her hands balled into fists at her sides, nails digging into her palms. She looked around the circle, searching for a friendly face, someone, anyone, who would stand with her. And then she saw her. Naomi. Her best friend since kindergarten. The girl she'd shared her lunch with every day. The girl who knew her favorite color, her favorite song, the name of her teddy bear. Naomi stood at the edge of the circle, arms folded, watching. Their eyes met. For a moment, hope flickered in Sky's chest like a candle in the wind. "Naomi," Sky breathed, her voice breaking. "Tell them. You know me. Tell them I'm not lying." The playground went silent. Every eye turned to Naomi. Marcus looked at her. Emma looked at her. The entire circle waited. Naomi shifted her weight from one foot to the other. She glanced at the crowd, then back at Sky. Her face was unreadable. Sky took a step forward. "Please, Naomi. You know my dad. You've been to my house. You know I wouldn't lie." Naomi's jaw tightened. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. And then Naomi shrugged. The gesture was small. Casual. Devastating. "Maybe it's true," Naomi said slowly, her voice cold and distant. "Maybe Sky just pretends a lot." The words hit Sky like a physical blow. Her knees buckled slightly. The world tilted. The crowd exploded. Even her best friend doesn't believe her. She's a liar. Faker. Attention seeker. Sky didn't hear the rest. She turned and ran. Past the swings. Past the slides. Past the teachers standing by the doors who saw everything but did nothing. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs felt like jelly. She ran until she couldn't hear the chanting anymore. But she couldn't outrun the truth. Even Naomi had turned her back. The walk home felt like walking through enemy territory. Sky kept her head down, her backpack straps digging into her shoulders, her teddy bear hidden inside where no one could see it and mock her for it. The afternoon sun beat down on the sidewalk, but Sky felt cold. She turned onto her street, the same street she'd walked down 1,000 times, where neighbors waved and called her name, where she'd ridden her bike and played hopscotch with other kids. But today, everything was different. Mrs. Chen sat on her porch, watering her potted plants. When Sky passed, she leaned toward her neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, and whispered, loud enough for Sky to hear. "That's the girl. The one who caused that scene at the bank." Mrs. Patterson shook her head slowly, her lips pursed. Sad, really. Kids lie for attention these days. It's all that screen time. And the parents just let them," Mrs. Chen added, her voice dripping with judgment. Sky's steps slowed, but she kept walking. "Don't cry. Don't let them see you cry." Across the street, Mr. Patterson stood by his mailbox, talking to another parent, Barbara, whose daughter Stephanie was in Sky's class. His voice carried on the breeze, clear as a bell. "I'm telling you, Barbara, don't let your kids near that family. First it's lying about money, next thing you know," he didn't finish the sentence. "He didn't have to." Barbara nodded knowingly, her face tight with disapproval. "I already told Stephanie to stay away from her. Can't be too careful." Sky's chest tightened. Stephanie. They'd worked on a project together just last month. They'd built a volcano that actually erupted. Stephanie had said it was the coolest thing she'd ever done. Now her mother was telling her to stay away. Sky turned the corner, and there, standing in a small cluster near the stop sign, were 3 more parents. They stopped talking the moment they saw her. Their eyes followed her like hawks tracking prey. One mother, Mrs. Rodriguez, pulled her son closer, wrapping a protective arm around his shoulder as if Sky carried some contagious disease. The boy, Daniel, who sat 2 seats away from Sky in class, stared at her and whispered, "Is that her?" His mother nodded sharply. "Don't talk to her." Daniel's eyes widened. "Why? What did she do?" "Just, don't," Mrs. Rodriguez said firmly, her voice low but pointed enough that Sky heard every word. Sky's vision blurred. Her hands trembled as she gripped her backpack straps tighter. She passed them, head down, refusing to look up, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her cry. But she could feel their stares burning into her back. A block away, two teenagers sitting on a stoop snickered as she passed. "Yo, isn't that the girl from TikTok?" "Yeah. The one who tried to flex at the bank." "Embarrassing." Their laughter followed her down the street like a pack of dogs nipping at her heels. By the time Sky reached her front door, her whole body was shaking. Her fingers fumbled with the handle, slipping twice before she finally got it open. She stumbled inside and collapsed against the door, sliding down to the floor. The house was quiet. Too quiet. And then she heard footsteps. Jordan appeared from the hallway, concern flooding his face the moment he saw her. He crossed the room in 3 strides and knelt beside her. "Sky. Baby, what happened?" She looked up at him, tears finally spilling over, her voice barely a whisper. "Daddy, why do they all hate me?" Jordan's jaw clenched. His hands balled into fists at his sides, trembling with barely controlled rage. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her like a fortress. "Because they don't know who you really are," he said quietly, his voice shaking. "But they will, Sky. I promise you. They will." Sky buried her face in his chest. "When, Daddy? When will they know?" Jordan stared at the door, at the neighborhood beyond it, and his eyes darkened with an intensity that could ignite steel. "Soon." 2 days passed like years. Sky barely spoke. Barely ate. She moved through the house like a ghost, her teddy bear never leaving her side. Jordan watched his daughter fade, and something inside him hardened into steel. On the 3rd morning, he woke her gently. "Get dressed, baby. We're going somewhere." "Where?" she asked, her voice small. "To finish what we started." The glass doors of Sterling Trust Bank swung open with such force they rattled in their frames. Jordan Hayes strode into the lobby like a storm given human form. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. The air itself seemed to shift. He wore a charcoal suit, perfectly tailored, his shoes clicking against the marble with deliberate precision. And behind him, holding his hand, was Sky. Sharon looked up from her station. Her face went white. "Oh God," she whispered to Marcus beside her. "That's him." "Who?" "Her father." Jordan walked straight to Sharon's counter, his presence filling the space like gravity pulling everything toward him. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Run the card again." Sharon's hands trembled. "Sir, I don't think. Now." The word cut through the air like a blade. Sharon fumbled for the card Jordan placed on the counter, the same card Sky had brought days earlier. Her fingers shook so badly she dropped it twice before finally swiping it through the machine. The lobby had gone deathly silent. Everyone was watching. A woman near the ATM whispered, "Is that the little girl from the other day?" Someone else, "Oh my God, it is." The machine beeped. The slip began printing. Jordan didn't move. Didn't blink. He stood there like a statue carved from stone and fury. The slip finished printing. Sharon pulled it out slowly, her face going from pale to ghost white. Her breath caught in her throat. Jordan took the slip from her trembling fingers. And held it high above his head. High enough for every single person in that lobby to see. "You disgraced my child," Jordan's voice cut through the silence like thunder. "You mocked her. You laughed at her. You made her feel like she was nothing." He turned slowly, making eye contact with every person who had been there that day. Some looked away. Others stared, frozen. "Now you see the truth." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "Oh my God. That can't be real. How much is Near the ATM, Mrs. Harper stood frozen, her coffee cup slipping from her hand. It shattered on the marble floor, the sound echoing like a gunshot. Jordan lowered the slip, his eyes finding Sharon's. "My daughter came here with dignity. And you stripped it from her in front of strangers. Remember this moment." Phones came out. A dozen cameras pointed at him. Someone was recording. Jordan didn't care. He knelt down, bringing himself to Sky's level. His voice softened, meant only for her but carrying to the edges of the room. "You stood tall when they tried to break you. Never forget that." Sky nodded, her eyes wet but no longer empty. For the first time in days, she stood a little straighter. Jordan stood, taking her hand. "Come on, baby. We're done here." As they walked toward the exit, the lobby remained silent except for the sound of their footsteps. But behind them, fingers were already flying across phone screens. Uploading. Sharing. Spreading. The video was already going viral. And what none of them knew, what Jordan couldn't know, was that with viral fame came enemies. Dangerous ones. The video hit 50,000 views in the first hour. By midnight, 2 million. By sunrise, it had exploded across every corner of the internet like wildfire. Father exposes bank that humiliated his 8-year-old daughter. Black girl mocked at bank, dad's response shocks everyone. You won't believe what this teller did. The clip was everywhere: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Reddit. It played on loop in millions of homes, on millions of screens, in break rooms and coffee shops and subway cars. Jordan's voice echoed through phone speakers across the country: "You disgraced my child. Now you see the truth." The comments section became a war zone. At Justice Warrior 23, "This is why accountability matters. That baby deserved better. Broken heart." At Skeptical Mind 91, "Fake. That balance was photoshopped. Wake up people." At Mama Bear _speaks, "I'm crying. She stood there with her teddy bear and they laughed at her." At Troll Account 88, "Rich people problems. There are real issues in the world." At Teacher Mom, "That teacher should be fired too. She made it worse." Talk shows picked it up by noon. Morning news anchors debated it over coffee. Radio hosts argued about it during drive time. Is this about wealth? About race? About dignity? Should the bank be held accountable? Who is Jordan Hayes? Hashtags trended worldwide within 24 hours. Hashtag Justice for Sky. Hashtag Believe Black Girls. Hashtag Sterling Trust Scandal. Hashtag Sky Strong. At the Hayes estate, Sky sat in the living room watching herself on the news. It felt surreal, like watching a stranger who happened to have her face. "Daddy," she said quietly, "why are so many people talking about me?" Jordan sat beside her, his arm around her shoulders. "Because you showed them something they needed to see. Courage." But not everyone saw courage. On cable news, a commentator in a crisp suit leaned into the camera. "While the father's anger is understandable, we have to ask, is this really about the child? Or is this a wealthy man flexing his power?" Another show. Different channel. Same doubt. Sources say Jordan Hayes has a history of, let's call them, aggressive, business tactics. Makes you wonder if this is all theater. The internet fractured further. At Keyboard Warrior, "Staged for clout. That kid's probably an actor." At Conspiracy King, "Nobody that rich would send their kid into a bank alone. This is PR." But millions more rallied. At Social Justice Now, "Y'all will find any excuse not to believe a black child. Any excuse." At Dad of 3, "I don't care how much money he has. That's a father protecting his daughter. Period." And in a corner office on the 3rd floor of Sterling Trust Bank, Victor Rourke sat in the dark. He was the branch manager. The man responsible for every teller, every policy, every decision made in that lobby. And now his career was burning. His phone hadn't stopped ringing. The bank's corporate office. The board of directors. Angry customers. Threatening customers. His email inbox was drowning in complaints. On his computer screen, the video played for the 100th time. Jordan's face. Sky's face. Sharon's terrified expression. And there, in the background, him. Victor Rourke. Standing in his office doorway, watching it all unfold, doing nothing. The board had called an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning. His job was on the line. 23 years with this bank. 23 years of climbing, of schmoozing, of playing the game perfectly. All because of one little girl. Rourke's hands curled into fists on his desk. He replayed the video again. And again. And again. His jaw tightened until his teeth ached. That little girl ruined me, he whispered into the empty office. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling, his mind churning. And in the darkness, a thought took root. A dangerous thought. But I'm not done yet. The next morning, they were waiting for him. Reporters. Cameras. Microphones thrust into the air like weapons. A sea of people packed onto the steps of Sterling Trust Bank, their bodies pressed together, their voices rising in a chaotic symphony of shouted questions. Jordan emerged from his black SUV, and the crowd erupted. Mr. Hayes. Mr. Hayes. How does it feel to be vindicated? What do you want to say to the bank? Is your daughter here? Flashbulbs exploded. Camera shutters clicked like machine guns. The noise was deafening. Jordan adjusted his tie, his face calm but his eyes burning with purpose. He squeezed Sky's hand, she'd insisted on coming, despite his hesitation, and walked straight toward the chaos. Security flanked them on both sides, creating a path through the mob. Jordan stopped at the top of the steps. Turned. Faced the crowd. Silence fell like a curtain dropping on a stage. He didn't speak immediately. He let the silence stretch, let the anticipation build, let every camera focus on his face. Then, finally, he spoke. My daughter was humiliated. His voice was steady, powerful, carrying across the crowd without a microphone. She was mocked. Disgraced. Accused of theft. Not because she did anything wrong, but because people judged her before they knew her. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A woman near the front wiped tears from her eyes. Jordan's voice grew stronger. This isn't just about Sky. This is about every child who's been told they don't belong. Every kid who's been laughed at for daring to dream bigger than the box society puts them in. Amen, someone shouted from the crowd. Cheers erupted. Signs shot up into the air. Hashtag justice for Sky. Hashtag believe her. Hashtag protect black girls. A woman's voice rang out, we stand with you. Jordan nodded, his jaw tight. They tried to take her dignity. But dignity isn't something you can steal, it's something you carry. And my daughter? He looked down at Sky, standing beside him, clutching her teddy bear. She carries hers with pride. The crowd roared. Hundreds of people, maybe thousands, chanting Sky's name. Sky. 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 Cameras captured every second. Every angle. Every tear on every face. This was victory. This was justice. Sky looked up at her father, her eyes wide with wonder. She'd never seen so many people in one place. Never heard her name chanted like a prayer. Jordan raised her hand like a champion being crowned. The crowd went wild. But hidden in the back, wearing a baseball cap pulled low and sunglasses that covered half his face, stood Victor Rourke. He didn't cheer. He didn't clap. He watched. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Another email. Another termination notice from corporate. Effective immediately, Victor Rourke is relieved of his duties at Sterling Trust Bank. Security will escort you from the premises by end of day. 23 years. Gone. His reputation, destroyed. His future, ruined. All because of them. Rourke's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. His fists balled in his jacket pockets, nails digging into his palms until they drew blood. The crowd chanted louder. Jordan raised Sky's hand higher. And in that moment, standing in the shadow of his own destruction, Rourke made a choice. A dark, terrible choice. If my life is over, he thought, his eyes burning with hatred as he stared at the little girl on those steps, then theirs will be too. He turned and disappeared into the crowd. Nobody noticed. Nobody saw him leave. Nobody knew what he was planning. It started 3 days later. A blog post. Anonymous. Untraceable. Posted at 3:47 a.m. The real truth about Jordan Hayes, millionaire or con artist. The article spread like poison through the internet's veins. Sources close to the Hayes family revealed disturbing allegations. Jordan Hayes's fortune didn't come from legitimate business deals. Insider reports suggest money laundering, offshore accounts, and connections to individuals under federal investigation. The viral bank video? A calculated PR stunt. The balance shown. Digitally manipulated. The little girl? Just a pawn in a scheme designed to generate sympathy and deflect from serious financial crimes. Within 3 hours, the post had 100,000 shares. By noon, major news outlets picked it up. Allegations surface about viral bank father. Is Jordan Hayes hiding something? Experts question authenticity of bank video. Cable news commentators leaned into their microphones, voices dripping with manufactured concern. We have to ask the tough questions here. Why would a legitimate businessman put his child through that experience? The timing is awfully convenient, don't you think? Something doesn't add up. Newspapers printed the rumors as if they were facts. Radio hosts debated conspiracy theories. Online forums exploded with threads dissecting every frame of the video. The memes returned, but crueler this time. Sky's face, photoshopped onto movie posters, the greatest scam ever told. Jordan's image beside mugshots, like father, like fraud. At school, the whispers started again. Sky walked down the hallway, her head down, her backpack heavy. My dad says her whole family's fake, a girl whispered loudly as Sky passed. I heard they're money laundering, a boy added. My mom says they're going to jail. Sky kept walking. Don't listen. Don't react. She sat alone at lunch, staring at her untouched tray. Her teddy bear was in her locker, she'd stopped bringing it to the cafeteria after someone tried to steal it as a joke. A shadow fell across her table. She looked up. Naomi stood there, arms crossed, face unreadable. For a split second, hope flickered in Sky's chest. Maybe she came to apologize. Maybe. My mom says your dad pays people to cover for him, Naomi said flatly, her voice loud enough that nearby tables could hear. She says everything about your family is a lie. The money. The video. Everything. Sky's throat tightened. Your mom doesn't know anything. She knows more than you think. Naomi leaned closer, her voice dropping to a cruel whisper. She says your dad's going to prison. And when he does, you'll have nobody. The cafeteria wasn't silent, but it felt like it. Kids at nearby tables had stopped eating, stopped talking, all watching the confrontation. Sky's vision blurred. You used to be my best friend. Naomi straightened. Used to be. She turned and walked away without another word. Sky sat frozen, staring at her lunch tray. Her hands trembled in her lap. Around her, whispers spread like wildfire. Did you hear what Naomi said? Even her best friend thinks they're fake. This is so messed up. That evening, Jordan sat in his study, scrolling through the articles on his tablet. His jaw was tight, his knuckles white as he gripped the device. Margaret stood in the doorway. It's everywhere, Donovan. Every outlet. They're not even calling them allegations anymore, they're stating them as fact. Jordan set the tablet down carefully, his movements controlled. Victor. We can't prove it. I don't need proof. His eyes were cold. I know. Somewhere across the city, Victor Rourke sat in his darkened apartment, watching the chaos unfold on his laptop screen. He smiled. That night, Sky couldn't sleep. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, watching shadows from the trees outside dance across the plaster. Every creak of the house made her flinch. Every gust of wind against the windows sounded like whispers. Her teddy bear lay beside her pillow, one button eye barely hanging by a thread. She pulled the covers up to her chin and tried to close her eyes. But sleep wouldn't come. The articles. The comments. Naomi's face. All of it played on repeat behind her eyelids like a horror movie she couldn't turn off. Finally, she gave up. Sky sat up, grabbed her teddy bear, and padded across the carpet to the window. The moon hung low and heavy in the sky, casting silver light across the lawn. Everything looked peaceful. Normal. Safe. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass, watching her breath fog the window in small clouds. The estate stretched out before her, perfectly manicured grass, the fountain in the center of the circular driveway, the iron gates at the end of the long path. All quiet. And then. Crash. Glass exploded inward like a bomb had gone off. Sky screamed, stumbling backward as shards rained down around her like deadly snow. Her teddy bear flew from her hands and hit the floor. Her ears rang. Her heart slammed against her ribs so hard it hurt. A rock, the size of a baseball, rolled across her bedroom floor, coming to a stop near her bare feet. Something was tied to it. Paper. Wrapped with twine. Sky's hands shook so badly she could barely breathe. She stared at the rock, at the broken glass glittering in the moonlight, at the gaping hole in her window where cold night air now poured in. Finally, her trembling fingers reached down. She untied the knot. Unfolded the paper. The message was written in jagged, angry letters, black marker, pressed so hard the paper was torn in places. You won't always be safe. Sky's scream pierced the night a second time. Footsteps thundered down the hallway. Her door burst open. Jordan stood in the doorway, chest heaving, eyes wild. He saw the broken window. The glass. The rock. The note in Sky's trembling hands. He crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled her into his arms, shielding her body with his. It's okay, baby. I've got you. I've got you. But Sky was shaking so hard she couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Her small body convulsed with sobs against his chest. Jordan's eyes fell on the note. His face darkened. Something cold and lethal flickered behind his eyes, something Sky had never seen before. Something that didn't belong to the gentle father who tucked her in at night. This was something else. Something dangerous. He stood slowly, still holding her, and looked out through the shattered window into the night. His voice came out low. Deadly calm. They want war. He kissed the top of Sky's head, but his eyes remained fixed on the darkness outside, scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. Then they'll have it. Guards arrived within the hour. 3 of them. Armed. Ex-military. They moved through the estate with tactical precision, flashlights cutting through the darkness like searchlights in a prison yard. Inside, workers boarded up Sky's window with plywood. The hammering echoed through the house, each strike a reminder that their sanctuary had been violated. Bang! 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 Jordan carried Sky to the guest room and laid her on the bed. He sat beside her, holding her hand. "Try to sleep, baby." But Sky's eyes stayed wide open, staring at the ceiling. Every sound made her jump. The wind rattling the plywood. A guard's footsteps on gravel. A car passing on the distant street. The house settling. She clutched her teddy bear so tightly the stitching began to tear further. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby." "Are they going to come back?" Jordan's jaw tightened. He looked at her, really looked at her, at the dark circles under her eyes, at the way her small hands trembled even now, hours later. "Not while I'm breathing." But his answer didn't comfort her. Because Sky had learned something terrible over the past week. Sometimes the people who hurt you don't wear masks. Sometimes they smile at you in grocery stores. Sometimes they teach your class. Sometimes they used to be your best friend. How do you guard against that? She didn't sleep. Not really. She dozed in fits and starts, jerking awake every few minutes, convinced she'd heard breaking glass or footsteps or whispers. By the time dawn broke, her eyes were bloodshot, her body exhausted but too wired to rest. Jordan insisted she stay home. She insisted on going to school. "I can't hide forever," she said quietly, her voice older than 8 years old had any right to be. Jordan's heart broke a little more. At school, Sky walked through the hallway like a ghost. Conversation stopped when she passed. Kids stared. Some pointed. At recess, she sat alone on the bench near the fence, her teddy bear in her lap. Footsteps approached. She didn't look up. Sky. It was Naomi. For a moment, just a moment, Sky's heart leaped. Maybe Naomi realized she was wrong. Maybe she came to apologize. Maybe. "My mom talked to Mrs. Harper," Naomi said, her voice flat and cold. "They both agree. Your dad's hiding something. Mrs. Harper says she's known your family for years and something's always felt off." Sky's chest tightened. "Mrs. Harper doesn't know anything about my family. She knows you lie for attention." Naomi crossed her arms. "She told my mom about all the stories you make up in class. The skyscraper. The private plane. All of it. Those weren't lies. My mom says when your dad goes to jail, child services will take you away." Naomi leaned closer, her voice dropping to a cruel whisper. "And nobody will want you. Because everyone knows you're just like him. A liar." The words hit like bullets. Sky sat frozen on that bench, her teddy bear's button knife finally falling off, rolling across the concrete and disappearing into the grass. Naomi turned and walked away without another word. And in that moment, Sky understood something she never wanted to know. Some betrayals cut so deep, they never stop bleeding. Has someone you trusted ever betrayed you when you needed them most? Share your story in the comments, this is a safe space. And if you're feeling what Sky's going through right now, subscribe and turn on notifications because what happens next will remind you why standing up for yourself always matters, even when the whole world turns against you. She looked down at her teddy bear, missing both eyes now, stitching coming apart, stuffing peeking through like old wounds. It looked exactly how she felt. Broken. The call came during lunch period. Jordan's phone buzzed. The caller ID read, Meadowbrook Elementary, Principal's Office. He answered on the second ring. "This is Jordan Hayes." "Mr. Hayes, this is Principal Whitmore." Her voice was clipped, professional, cold. "We need to speak. Immediately." "About?" "Your daughter. Please come to my office as soon as possible." The line went dead. Jordan arrived 20 minutes later, his expression unreadable as stone. Principal Whitmore sat behind her desk, fingers steepled, wearing the kind of tight smile that promised bad news wrapped in false politeness. Her office smelled of air freshener and coffee. Certificates lined the walls, achievements, commendations, degrees. All carefully framed. All perfectly aligned. "Mr. Hayes, thank you for coming on such short notice." She gestured to the chair across from her. "Please, sit." Jordan didn't sit. "What's this about?" Whitmore's smile tightened. "Your daughter has become a disruption." "A disruption?" "Yes." She shuffled papers on her desk, avoiding his eyes. "Since the incident at the bank went viral, we've had numerous complaints. Parents are concerned. Teachers are uncomfortable. The learning environment has been compromised." Jordan's voice dropped dangerously low. "Compromised how?" "Well," Whitmore adjusted her glasses, "some parents feel that your family's situation has brought unwanted attention to the school. Media vans have been parked outside our gates. Reporters have approached students. And there have been allegations." "Allegations?" Jordan took a step forward. "Against my 8-year-old daughter?" "Against you, Mr. Hayes." Whitmore met his eyes finally. "Parents are asking questions. About your finances. About the authenticity of that viral video. One parent even claims you threatened Mrs. Harper in the parking lot last week. I've never spoken to Mrs. Harper in my life. Nevertheless, perception matters." Whitmore folded her hands. "For the safety and well-being of all our students, we believe it's best if Sky takes a temporary leave of absence." Silence. The word hung in the air like poison gas. Jordan stared at her. "You're suspending my daughter." "It's not a suspension, per se. It's a... You're punishing the victim." His voice was ice. "My daughter was humiliated. Mocked. Stones were thrown through her bedroom window. And your solution is to remove her?" Whitmore's smile tightened further. "Mr. Hayes, I understand your frustration, but..." Jordan's palm slammed on the desk so hard pens jumped. "You punished the victim instead of the bullies. Instead of the adults who mocked her. Instead of the teacher who betrayed her trust in front of an entire bank." Whitmore flinched but held her ground. "The decision is final. Sky is suspended for 2 weeks, effective immediately. We'll provide work packets she can complete at home." Jordan leaned across the desk, his face inches from hers. "My daughter did nothing wrong. Mr. Hayes. Nothing." He straightened up, buttoned his suit jacket with deliberate precision, and walked toward the door. He paused at the threshold, looking back. "You'll regret this." Whitmore's face hardened. "Is that a threat?" Jordan's smile was cold as winter. "It's a promise." Sky didn't know about the camera. She came home that afternoon with the suspension letter crumpled in her backpack, walked straight to the living room, and collapsed onto the couch. The house was empty. Jordan was still at the principal's office, probably arguing, probably making calls to lawyers. Her teddy bear, now missing both button eyes, was clutched against her chest. And she cried. Not the quiet kind of crying. The kind that shakes your whole body. The kind that empties you out from the inside until there's nothing left but raw, aching pain. She buried her face in the teddy bear's worn fur and sobbed. "Why won't they believe me?" Her voice cracked, breaking on every word. "I told them the truth. I told them over and over." She gasped for air between sobs. "I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't. I just wanted to check my balance." The words dissolved into more crying. She curled into a ball on the couch, her small body shaking, her teddy bear pressed so tight against her face she could barely breathe. "Everybody hates me. Even Naomi. Even Mrs. Harper. Even the principal." Her voice was muffled, broken, desperate. What did I do? What did I do wrong? What Sky didn't know was that her cousin Marcus had been visiting earlier that day. He was 16, always on his phone, always chasing the next viral moment. He'd set up his phone on the bookshelf across the room to record a prank video for TikTok, something stupid involving fake spider webs. And he'd forgotten to turn it off. The camera had been recording for 3 hours. It captured everything. Every sob. Every tear. Every heartbreaking word. 3 hours later, Marcus came back for his phone. He grabbed it off the bookshelf, started scrolling through his recordings to find the prank footage. And found something else. He watched the video of Sky crying. His eyes widened. Yo, he muttered to himself. This is. He kept watching. Sky's broken voice. Her desperate questions. The raw vulnerability of an 8-year-old girl completely falling apart. Marcus sat on the couch, the same spot where Sky had been hours earlier, and watched the whole thing. Then he called his friend Devin. Bro, you gotta see this. My little cousin having a full meltdown. Devin came over. Watched it. Laughed. Dude, this is gold. Post it. Nah, man, that's messed up. You serious? This'll blow up. You'll get like 1 million views easy. Marcus hesitated. His thumb hovered over the upload button. He looked at Sky's face on the screen, red, swollen, streaked with tears. He hesitated for exactly 5 seconds. Then he hit upload. The caption read, "Rich girl meltdown face with tears of joy skull when reality hits different." By midnight, the video had 3 million views. The comments were ruthless. Cry me a river with your millions money bag loudly crying face. She's acting. This is fake sympathy bait. Rich people problems LMO. That teddy bear probably cost more than my rent skull. Boo-hoo, life's so hard when you're loaded. Reaction videos spawned within hours. TikTokers stitched it with laughing sound effects. YouTubers made commentary videos. Meme accounts turned her crying face into templates. Sky's pain, her rawest, most vulnerable moment, became entertainment. A joke. Content. And somewhere in the darkness, Victor Rourke watched the video play on his laptop screen. He leaned back in his chair. And smiled. Perfect, he whispered. Let them tear her apart for me. They came at dawn. Sky woke to the sound of voices, dozens of them, chanting outside her window. She crawled out of bed and peeked through the curtains of the guest room where she'd been sleeping since the rock incident. Her stomach dropped. A crowd had gathered at the estate gates. 50 people. Maybe more. Signs held high. Voices rising in angry unison. Fraud. Fake money. Justice for the truth. Hayes is a liar. Sky's hands trembled against the glass. Jordan appeared beside her, his jaw tight as steel. Stay away from the windows, baby. Who are they, Daddy? People who believe lies. His voice was hard. Come on. Let's get you dressed. But Sky couldn't move. Couldn't look away. Because standing at the front of the crowd, megaphone in hand, baseball cap gone, face fully visible for the first time, was a man she'd never seen before. Victor Rourke. He raised the megaphone to his lips. Jordan Hayes is a liar. The crowd roared in response, their voices shaking the morning air. He staged that video. Louder. He used his daughter as a prop. The chants grew deafening, crashing against the estate walls like waves against a cliff. Rourke pointed directly at the house, directly at the window where Sky stood frozen. That little girl is part of the con. Expose the lies. Expose the fraud. The crowd surged forward, pressing against the iron gates. Security guards formed a line, hands on their radios, eyes alert, bodies tense. Tear down the gates. Make him answer. Justice now. Skye stepped back from the window, her breath coming in short, sharp gasps. Daddy. Jordan pulled her close, his large hand covering the back of her head. He can't get in. The guards won't let him. But Skye wasn't listening. Her eyes were locked on Rourke through the gap in the curtains. He was staring straight at their window. Even from that distance, she could see his eyes, cold, calculating, filled with something dark and terrible. He smiled. Slowly. Deliberately. And mouthed 2 words she could read even without sound. I'm coming. Skye's knees buckled. Jordan caught her before she fell, scooping her into his arms like she weighed nothing. That's it, he said, his voice low and dangerous. No more running. No more defense. He carried Skye away from the window, but his eyes never left Rourke's face through the glass. You want war? Jordan whispered, more to himself than anyone. You just declared it. Outside, the chants continued, growing louder by the minute. Fraud. 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 The crowd swelled larger. More people arrived, drawn by social media posts and news alerts. What had started as 50 became 100. And Rourke stood at the center of it all, megaphone raised, orchestrating the chaos like a conductor leading an orchestra of hatred. He'd lost everything. His career. His reputation. His future. And now he wanted blood. The siege had begun. Jordan gathered his security team in the study. 6 men. All ex-military. All hand-picked. All loyal. Marcus, head of security, broad-shouldered with a scar across his jaw, stood at attention. Beside him, 5 others, Thompson, Rodriguez, Chen, Williams, and Davis. Men who'd seen combat. Men who understood threat assessment. Jordan stood at the head of the room, hands planted flat on the mahogany desk, eyes burning with a fury they'd never seen before. They want us silent, he said, his voice quiet but lethal. They want us broken. They want my daughter to crawl into a hole and disappear. Silence hung in the room like smoke. But we will not bow. His fist slammed the desk. We will not hide. And we will not let them win. The men nodded, jaws tight, ready. Marcus, I want triple patrols. Eyes on every corner of this property. Motion sensors on every gate. Cameras covering every blind spot. Yes, sir. Thompson, Rodriguez, I want background checks on every person in that crowd outside. Who organized them? Who's funding them? Who's pulling the strings? On it. Jordan turned to Chen. Pull every piece of footage from the bank. Security cameras, traffic cams, everything. I want a timeline of Victor Rourke's movements for the past month. Understood. And Williams, Davis, Jordan's voice dropped, dangerous. Find out everything about Victor Rourke. Where he lives. Who he talks to. What he eats for breakfast. I want to know his life better than he does. Williams nodded. How deep do you want us to go? As deep as it takes. Marcus stepped forward. Sir, if he's orchestrating this protest, he's not working alone. Someone's helping him. Probably someone with resources. Jordan's eyes narrowed. Then find them. All of them. And when we do, we expose them. Jordan straightened. If they keep pushing, I will push back harder. And I will not stop until they regret ever speaking my daughter's name. Later that night, Skye found her father sitting on the edge of her bed, staring out the boarded-up window. She climbed onto the bed beside him, her eyeless teddy bear clutched in her arms. Daddy? He turned, his expression softening instantly. Yeah, baby. Will it ever end? Jordan pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her small frame. He kissed the top of her head. Yes. When? His jaw tightened. His eyes darkened. When they regret ever speaking your name. Sky looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. What if they don't stop? Jordan's gaze drifted back to the window, to the darkness beyond, to the protesters still camped outside the gates. Then I'll make them. Sky buried her face in his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. Outside, the wind picked up. The guards patrolled the grounds with flashlights. The cameras watched every shadow. But neither Jordan nor Sky knew what was already in motion. Because at that very moment, one of the guards, a man named Peters who'd been hired just 5 days ago, was texting a number he shouldn't have. Gates clear at 2 a.m. Left side. Cameras have a 30-second blind spot. The reply came instantly. Good. You'll get your money tomorrow. Peters deleted the messages and slipped his phone back into his pocket. Then he resumed his patrol, whistling softly into the night. 2 a.m. The estate was silent except for the wind rustling through the trees. Peters stood at his post near the left gate, checking his watch. Right on time. He glanced over his shoulder. The other guards were on the opposite side of the property, making their rounds. Marcus had just radioed in from the main house. Thompson was checking the perimeter cameras. Everything running like clockwork. Which meant nobody was watching here. Peters reached for the latch. Click. The gate swung open, just an inch. Just enough. He stepped back into the shadows and waited. Seconds ticked by like hours. Then, movement in the darkness. Shadows detached themselves from the tree line. 5 of them. Maybe 6. Moving fast and low to the ground like wolves stalking prey. Dressed in black. Faces covered. No words spoken. They slipped through the gate one by one, silent as ghosts. The last one through paused and looked at Peters. Handed him an envelope, thick, heavy. Peters didn't open it. Just pocketed it and nodded. The man disappeared into the darkness. Peters pulled the gate shut with barely a sound, then resumed his patrol, whistling the same tune as before. Nothing to see here. Just another quiet night. Inside the house, Sky stirred in her sleep. A nightmare clawed at the edges of her mind, shadows with no faces, voices with no bodies, hands reaching for her through broken glass. She gasped and sat up, heart racing. The house was dark. Silent. Too silent. She clutched her teddy bear and swung her legs over the side of the bed, her bare feet touching the cold floor. Something felt wrong. She couldn't explain it. Couldn't name it. But the air felt different. Heavy. Watching. She walked to the window, the new one, the one they'd installed after the rock, and peeked through the curtains. The grounds looked empty. Peaceful. The guards were making their rounds. Everything seemed normal. But then. A flash of movement near the garage. Sky pressed her face closer to the glass, squinting into the darkness. Was that? Yes. A shadow. Crouched low. Moving toward the house. Then another shadow. And another. Sky's breath caught in her throat. Her hands flew to her mouth, stifling a scream. They weren't outside the gates anymore. They were inside. They were here. She turned and ran to her father's room, her teddy bear falling forgotten on the floor. Daddy! Her scream shattered the silence like glass. And outside, the shadows kept moving. Closer. 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 One of them pulled something from his jacket, a crowbar, glinting in the moonlight. Another carried a baseball bat. A third had his hand tucked inside his coat, gripping something unseen. They reached the side entrance, a service door used by housekeeping. The lock was already disabled. Peters had made sure of it hours ago. The door opened without a sound. And they slipped inside. Into Jordan's home. Into Sky's sanctuary. The house, the one place that was supposed to be safe, had been breached. Jordan was already moving before Sky finished screaming. He burst from his room, grabbed Sky, and shoved her behind him. "Stay behind me. Don't move." The first crash came from downstairs. Glass shattering. Wood splintering. The sound of a door being kicked in. They were breaking in. Jordan's hand went to his phone, fingers flying across the screen. Code red. All units. Intruders inside. Now. Footsteps thundered through the house. Heavy boots on marble. Multiple sets. Moving fast. Voices shouting commands. Find them. Upstairs. Split up. Jordan backed toward Sky's room, keeping her behind him, his body a shield between her and whatever was coming up those stairs. The storm outside chose that moment to break. Thunder cracked like a gunshot. Rain hammered against the windows. Lightning lit up the hallway in brief, blinding flashes. A shadow appeared at the top of the stairs. Then another. Then 3 more. Men in black. Faces covered with ski masks. Bats in their hands. Crowbars. One had brass knuckles. Jordan didn't hesitate. He charged. The first man swung his bat. Jordan ducked, grabbed the man's arm, and twisted. Bone cracked. The man screamed. The bat clattered to the floor. The second man lunged. Jordan's elbow caught him in the throat. He went down gagging, clutching his neck. But there were too many. A bat caught Jordan across the shoulder. Pain exploded through him like fire. He grunted, stumbled, but didn't fall. Another swing. He blocked it with his forearm. The impact sent shockwaves through his bones. Sky screamed from the doorway. "Daddy!" The sound of her terror ignited something primal in Jordan. Something beyond reason. Beyond fear. He roared, a sound that didn't belong to a man but to something wild and unstoppable. He grabbed the nearest attacker by the collar and hurled him into the wall. The man's head hit with a sickening crack. He crumpled like paper. Thunder boomed. Rain poured. Lightning turned everything white for a split second. Suddenly, gunfire outside. The guards had arrived. Shouts erupted from downstairs. More glass breaking. Men yelling. Radios crackling. The attackers in the hallway hesitated, looking at each other. Jordan seized the moment. He tackled the closest one, driving him to the ground. Fists flew. Blood sprayed. The man's nose crunched under Jordan's knuckles. Lightning flashed again. Thunder drowned out the screams. One attacker tried to reach for Sky's doorway. Jordan caught him by the ankle and dragged him back. The man's face met Jordan's fist. Once. Twice. 3 times. He went limp. The remaining attackers turned and ran, scrambling down the stairs, desperate to escape. Jordan stood in the hallway, chest heaving, blood on his knuckles, some his, some not. Rain hammered the roof like war drums. He turned to Sky, who stood frozen in the doorway, eyes wide with terror. "Stay here," he commanded. "Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me." "Daddy, no." "Lock it." He didn't wait for her to respond. He stormed down the stairs, rage burning in his veins. Outside, guards wrestled attackers to the ground. Mud. Rain. Blood mixing together in the chaos. And there, trying to slip away into the darkness near the tree line, was Victor Rourke. Jordan's eyes locked on him. Rourke. Rourke froze. Turned. Their eyes met through the rain. Jordan started walking. Not running. Walking. Slow. Deliberate. Unstoppable. Rourke's eyes widened. He stumbled backward. But there was nowhere left to run. Rain poured like sheets of steel. Jordan closed the distance between them, water streaming down his face, mixing with blood from a cut above his eyebrow. Rourke backed up against a parked car, hands raised, his expensive shoes slipping in the mud. "Wait, Hayes, wait, let's talk about this." "Talk." Jordan's voice was thunder itself. "You threw rocks through my daughter's window. You organized protests outside her home. You sent men into my house in the middle of the night. Lightning split the sky. It wasn't supposed to go this far." Rourke's voice cracked. "I just wanted to scare you, make you look bad, I didn't." Jordan's hand shot out and grabbed Rourke by the collar, slamming him back against the hood of the car. "You terrorized an 8-year-old girl. Please. You turned the neighborhood against her. I'm sorry. You made her afraid to sleep in her own house." Thunder boomed. Rain hammered down harder. Jordan's fist rose, trembling with fury, every muscle in his arm coiled like a spring. Rourke squeezed his eyes shut, whimpering. And then, lights. Flashing red and blue. Sirens wailing. Police cars screeched into the driveway, officers spilling out with weapons drawn. "Freeze. Hands where we can see them." But that's not what stopped Jordan. It was the cameras. Dozens of them. Neighbors. News crews. People with phones held high, recording everything. The red recording lights blinked like demon eyes in the darkness. Jordan looked at Rourke, this pathetic, broken man who'd caused so much pain, and saw him for what he truly was. Small. Cowardly. Already destroyed. Jordan's fist remained raised. The cameras captured it all. The world was watching. One punch. That's all it would take. One punch to end this. But then he heard it. A small voice from the porch. "Daddy." Skye stood in the doorway, wrapped in a blanket, her eyeless teddy bear somehow back in her arms. She wasn't screaming. Wasn't crying. Just watching. Jordan's eyes met hers through the rain. And slowly, agonizingly slowly, he lowered his fist. He leaned close to Rourke's ear and whispered, "You came for my daughter. You hunted a child. Now the whole world knows what you are." He shoved Rourke forward into the mud. The man collapsed, gasping and sobbing, his expensive suit ruined, his dignity shattered. Police moved in immediately, surrounding Rourke, pulling him to his feet, reading him his rights. "Victor Rourke, you're under arrest for criminal trespass, conspiracy to commit assault, endangering a minor, inciting violence." The list went on. The cameras kept rolling. Jordan walked back toward the house, rain washing the blood from his hands. He climbed the porch steps and dropped to his knees in front of Skye. "It's over, baby. It's over." She collapsed into his arms. Behind them, officers led Rourke away in handcuffs, his expensive shoes squelching through the mud, his head bowed in defeat. Thunder rumbled, distant now. The storm was passing. Right now, tell me in the comments, was Jordan right to show restraint, or should he have finished what Rourke started? There's no wrong answer here. And if this moment gave you chills, hit that subscribe button and share this video because stories like Skye's need to be told, and I can't do it without you. But the cameras never stopped recording. And by sunrise, the footage would be everywhere. The question was, would they call Jordan a hero? Or a monster? By 6 a.m., the video had 10 million views. By noon, 50 million. The footage was everywhere, every platform, every news station, every screen in every home across America. Jordan's face, twisted with rage, fist raised above Rourke's cowering form. The rain. The lightning. The moment he chose mercy over violence. The internet exploded. At Defenders Unite, this is what a real father looks like. He protected his baby. Hero. Flex biceps Blackheart. At Truth Matters 22, he almost killed that man on camera. This is assault. Lock him up. At MamaBear_NYC, y'all mad he defended his daughter? Where was this energy when they threw rocks through her window? At Law and Order 88, violence is never the answer. Doesn't matter what Rourke did. Hayes is a thug in an expensive suit. At Justice for Sky, he showed restraint. Watch the full video. He could have ended that man, but he chose not to. Cable news split down the middle. CNN anchor, morning show, Jordan Hayes showed remarkable restraint in a situation where many wouldn't have. Fox News commentator, evening segment, but should we celebrate a man who nearly committed assault on camera? What message does this send? MSNBC panel debate, his daughter was terrorized in her own home. Conservative radio host, two wrongs don't make a right. Hayes should face charges. Talk show hosts debated. Panels argued. Twitter threads reached thousands of tweets. Hashtag Father of the Year trended alongside hashtag Violent Vigilante. Some called him a protector. Others called him dangerous. At the Hayes estate, Sky sat cross-legged on her bed, tablet in her lap, scrolling through the comments with trembling hands. Her father's face was everywhere. Her name was everywhere. She read comment after comment after comment. He's a savage. He's a king. He's unstable. He's exactly what we need. Lock him up. Give him a medal. He's teaching his daughter that violence is okay. He's teaching his daughter to stand up for herself. Her small hands shook. Tears blurred the screen. Was her daddy a hero? Or a monster? She didn't know anymore. The tablet slipped from her fingers and landed softly on the blanket. Outside her room, she could hear Jordan on the phone with lawyers. His voice was calm but strained. I don't care what they're saying. I'd do it again. Every single time. A pause. My daughter's safety isn't up for debate. Another pause. Then let them come after me. I'm not hiding. Sky pulled her eyeless teddy bear close and whispered into its torn fur. I just wanted to check my balance. That's all this was supposed to be. A little girl. A bank card. A simple transaction. How did it become this? Her door opened. Jordan stood in the doorway, phone still in hand, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. Their eyes met. Daddy, are you in trouble? Jordan crossed the room and sat beside her, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. I don't know, baby. For the first time since this began, he sounded uncertain. Scared. I don't know. The knock came at 4 p.m. 3 sharp raps on the door that echoed through the house like a judge's gavel. Sky was curled up on the couch, her teddy bear in her lap, when she heard it. She looked up. Her stomach dropped. Through the window, she could see them. Police cars. 4 of them. Lights off, but their presence unmistakable. Jordan opened the door. 2 officers stood on the porch, faces grave. Behind them, 2 more waited by their vehicles. Mr. Jordan Hayes? Yes. The older officer, gray at the temples, lines carved deep around his eyes, pulled out a badge. I'm Detective Morrison. This is Officer Chen. We need to speak with you about the incident last night. Jordan stepped onto the porch, pulling the door partially closed behind him. I've already given my statement to the responding officers. We have some follow-up questions, Morrison said carefully. His tone was professional but firm. And we've received a formal complaint. You're under investigation for assault. The words hung in the air like poison. Sky's breath caught. She slid off the couch and ran to the door, pushing past her father's legs. Don't take him. Her voice cracked, desperate. Please don't take my daddy. She wrapped her arms around Jordan's leg, holding on like he might disappear if she let go. Officer Chin shifted uncomfortably, looking away. Morrison's expression softened, but his voice remained firm. Mr. Hayes, we're not arresting you. Not yet. But we need you to come down to the station for questioning. No. Sky screamed, tears streaming down her face. He didn't do anything wrong. He was protecting me. They came into our house. Jordan knelt down, gently prying her arms loose. Sky, baby, look at me. She shook her head violently, sobbing. Sky. His voice was firm. Look at me. She finally met his eyes, her face streaked with tears. I'll be back. I promise. But you have to let me go. What if you don't come back? The question hung between them, raw and terrifying. Jordan's jaw tightened. He pulled her close, kissing her forehead. I will always come back for you. Always. Outside the gate, a crowd had gathered again. Cameras. Reporters. People shouting from both sides. Justice for Jordan. Arrest him. He's a hero. He's a criminal. The noise was deafening. Morrison glanced at the chaos and back at Jordan. We should go now. Before this gets worse. Jordan stood, his hand lingering on Sky's head for one more moment. Then he walked toward the unmarked police car. Sky stood frozen on the porch, her eyeless teddy bear clutched against her chest, watching her father get into the back seat. The door closed. The engine started. And the car drove away. Sky stood there long after it disappeared from view, tears falling silently, her small body trembling. Margaret appeared behind her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Come inside, sweetheart. But Sky didn't move. She just stared at the empty driveway where her father had been. By sunrise, the truth had emerged. Security footage from the estate. Phone records. Bank transfers to Peters, the bribed guard. Text messages between Rourke and the attackers he'd hired. The evidence was undeniable. Victor Rourke was charged with conspiracy, criminal trespass, endangering a minor, inciting violence, and orchestrating an assault. Jordan walked free. But freedom came with a price. 3 days later, the official letter arrived. Dear Mr. Hayes, after careful consideration and consultation with our board, we have decided to permanently expel Sky Hayes from Meadowbrook Elementary. This decision is final and not subject to appeal. Jordan crumpled the letter in his fist. Sky sat on the couch, staring at nothing. No school. No friends. No Naomi. Naomi never came back. Never apologized. Never even sent a text. The teddy bear sat beside Sky on the couch, eyeless, torn at the seams, stuffing peeking through like old wounds that refused to heal. It looked exactly how she felt. Broken. Scarred. Barely holding together. Jordan sat down beside her, the weight of everything pressing down on his shoulders. They tried to disgrace you, he said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. They tried to break you. To make you small. To make you disappear. Sky didn't respond. Just stared at her hands. Jordan gently lifted her chin so she had to look at him. But you are Sky Hayes. His voice cracked. And they will never, never, forget your name. Tears welled in Sky's eyes, but they didn't fall. Something had changed in her. Something fundamental. Something irreversible. Her eyes, once bright with childlike wonder, had aged. They carried weight now. Knowledge. Pain. She was 8 years old. But her eyes were so much older. She picked up her teddy bear, running her fingers over its torn seams, its missing eyes, the places where it had come apart. Then she stood and walked to the window, looking out at the neighborhood that had turned against her. At the school that expelled her. At the world that tried to erase her. Jordan stood beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "What are you thinking, baby?" Sky was quiet for a long moment. The morning sun streamed through the window, casting long shadows across the floor. Finally, she whispered. Not with sadness, not with anger, but with something colder, harder, more powerful. "Then let them remember." 1 week after the arrest, Jordan sat in his study reviewing documents when Margaret rushed in, her face pale. "Donovan, we have a problem. The charges against Rourke are being dropped." Jordan's head snapped up. "What?" "His lawyer just filed a motion. Claims Rourke was acting under duress. Says someone else orchestrated everything." She slid a folder across the desk. "And there's more. Forensic accountants found something in the bank's records. Large payments to Rourke from an offshore account. He wasn't working alone." Jordan opened the folder. His jaw tightened as he read. The payments traced back to a shell corporation. And that corporation was owned by someone Jordan knew very well. Richard Hayes. The chairman of Sterling Trust Bank's board of directors. Jordan's mind raced. Richard Hayes had been his business rival for 15 years. They'd competed for contracts, investors, properties. Every time Jordan won, Richard smiled through gritted teeth and plotted his next move. But this? Using an 8-year-old child as a weapon? He knew, Jordan said quietly. He knew Sky would walk into that bank that day. He probably told Sharon and Victor exactly how to handle it. Margaret nodded grimly. "There's more. We pulled phone records. Richard called Victor 17 times in the week before the incident. And he was at the bank that morning. Security footage shows him leaving through the back entrance 10 minutes before Sky arrived." Jordan's fists clenched. He staged the entire thing. He wanted the humiliation. He wanted the viral moment. He wanted me to look like a villain defending her. He almost succeeded, Margaret said. If Rourke hadn't escalated to violence, Richard might have destroyed your reputation completely. Jordan stood. Where is he now? That's the thing. He disappeared. 3 days ago. Hasn't been seen since the prosecutors started digging into the offshore accounts. But Richard Hayes hadn't disappeared. He sat in a private suite at the Four Seasons, bourbon in hand, watching the news coverage of Rourke's pending release. His phone buzzed. A text from his lawyer, "They're on to us. Forensic trail leads back to you. I suggest you leave the country." Richard smiled. He'd prepared for this possibility. Passport under a different name. Private jet fueled and waiting. 20 million in untraceable cryptocurrency. He'd won, in a way. Even if Jordan survived this scandal, the damage was done. Sky's face would forever be associated with chaos and controversy. Richard raised his glass in a mock toast to the television screen showing Jordan's face. "Checkmate," he whispered. Then his door burst open. FBI agents swarmed the suite, weapons drawn. "Richard Hayes, you're under arrest for conspiracy, wire fraud, racketeering, and endangering a minor." Richard's glass shattered on the floor. "You can't prove anything," he snarled. Agent Torres stepped forward, holding up a tablet. Victor Rourke flipped. "He gave us everything. Recordings. Emails. Bank statements. You paid him $50,000 to humiliate that little girl. And when it backfired, you paid him another $100,000 to escalate." Richard's face went white. "You wanted Jordan Hayes destroyed," Torres continued. You thought if you could make him look unstable, you could force him out of business deals, tank his reputation, maybe even get him arrested. But you didn't count on one thing. What? A father's love is stronger than your hatred. The trial lasted 6 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. Recordings of Richard's voice instructing Victor on exactly what to say. Email chains planning the spontaneous humiliation. Financial transfers made hours after Skye left the bank in tears. The prosecution called witness after witness. Sharon, the teller, testified that Richard had approached her the night before and told her a test was coming the next day. She'd assumed it was a corporate compliance check. She never imagined it involved a child. Mrs. Harper, the teacher, testified that Richard had called her personally and asked her to happen to be at the bank that morning. He'd offered her $2,000 to add credibility to the narrative. And Victor Rourke, facing 20 years in prison, took the stand and laid bare the entire conspiracy. He told me to make her feel worthless, Victor said, his voice hollow. He said, make it public. Make it humiliating. Make Jordan Hayes come to her rescue looking like a violent thug. I thought I was just playing a role. I didn't realize how far it would go. And the attack on the estate? The prosecutor asked. Victor's voice dropped to a whisper. That was all Richard. He hired the men. He paid Peters to unlock the gate. He wanted Jordan to snap on camera. Wanted him arrested. Wanted everything to crumble. The courtroom was silent. On the witness stand, Skye sat beside her father, her eyeless teddy bear in her lap. The judge looked at Richard Hayes, powerful businessman, community leader, respected board chairman, and saw him for what he truly was. A coward who weaponized a child. 25 years, the judge pronounced. No possibility of parole. Outside the courthouse, Jordan knelt before Skye on the steps. It's really over, she asked. It's really over. Skye looked at her teddy bear. Then at her father. Can I go back to school? Jordan smiled, tears in his eyes. We'll find you a new school. A better one. Somewhere you'll be safe. And will they believe me? Jordan pulled her close. Anyone who doesn't believe you doesn't deserve to know you. Reporters shouted questions, but Jordan ignored them. He lifted Skye into his arms and walked toward the car. Behind them, Richard Hayes was led away in handcuffs, his empire destroyed, his legacy forever tarnished. And somewhere in the crowd, a woman approached Jordan before he could leave. She was older, gray-haired, wearing simple clothes. Her face was kind. Mr. Hayes. I'm Anna Blackwell. I saw what happened to your daughter. She handed him a card. I run a school for gifted children who've faced adversity. If Skye ever needs a place where she's truly understood, call me. Jordan looked at the card. Then at Anna. Thank you, he said. And for the first time in weeks, Skye smiled. Skye started as a little girl just trying to check her balance. She ended as a symbol that the world will never forget. If her story moved you, if it changed something in you, let me know in the comments what lesson you're taking away from this. Subscribe so you never miss another story that matters. And share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's been doubted, dismissed, or told they don't belong. Because dignity isn't given. It's carried. Thank you for watching.